What a weird book. Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to Challenge Overhauled. This is a series that my patrons voted on. We are focusing on for this quarter books that we have hauled over the last year or so that we'd like to get to sooner than later. Which makes sense. We spent a lot of money on these books. We'd like to prioritize them a little higher than, like, say, library copies. But that's the thing. Library copies come with time constraints, and they make you feel like you need to read them first because they're due back soon. Whereas the books you've bought will just sit there waiting patiently for you. The idea for the challenge came about because I was editing a book haul video and I thought, geez, I really need a way to make myself read those sooner. Wouldn't that be great if I were reading the books I brought home immediately? Yeah, that's never going to happen. Last year, I brought home over 200 titles, about 130, I think, of which were unread. So everything has been added to this little baggie, and at the end of the video, I will be choosing another book to read. But for the time being, the first book drawn was The Howling Dark by Christopher Rocchio, book 2 in the Sun Eater series. And actually, it took me a little bit longer to read, not only because it's a monster, but because I realized that there was like a 50-year gap between book 1 and book 2. And I thought, oh, there must be a short story or something that I'm missing. So I did find a novella. It's called The Lesser Devil, and I read it, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the main character and that gap of time frame. It has to do with a side character that you met at the beginning of the book who was really interesting, and I liked seeing what was going on over there, but where was the missing stuff for that one? So I think because I had to stop reading this one and jump to that one, there was a little bit of a gap, like a mental gap. So when I finally got back to this one, I couldn't remember why we were doing what we were doing. It was for sure, I'm sure, mentioned at the beginning, and I just forgot about it or missed it. But the first 25% of the book felt kind of like a non sequitur to me. Like, what are we even doing? And then it just went in a really weird direction, but it got really good. The pacing was just slow and dragged you on and really enmeshed you in this world. And I thought it was incredibly well done and had some amazing moments, some great battle scenes, some kick you in the gut kind of things. But it was odd. I can't say as though I've ever read anything precisely like this. And I can say, I know why there's so much hype around it, because it was a wildly entertaining book. One of those things where you just find yourself near the end of the book, kind of hushing up everything around you so you can sit and focus on it till the end. I am really lucky that it got picked for this challenge, given how many little papers were in that bag, because I was already high on the series. I've decided it's my #1 priority going forward until I get caught up, because the new one's coming out soon. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. What struck me about this book the most is the main character has flaws and makes mistakes, and I really love characters that are written that way. Oh man, that was so dumb. But it seems like a really human thing to do. I liked that aspect. I also really appreciated the conflict with the villains. This book gave that conflict so much context and depth, and it made me really understand the other side a little more. And it just had this eerie quality. Just really well done. I can't wait to read on. I have no idea where the author is going with this, and I love that I've already seen a lot of things that were really unexpected. Man, that was a weird book. I've seen a lot of reviews for it, and granted, I don't watch full-on reviews for things because I don't want to know anything about the book before I dive into it. But just in wrap-ups that I've seen where people have mentioned that they've read the book, usually they just say, oh, I really like this, I'm enjoying my experience with the series, but I've never heard anybody comment on how bizarre some of the elements were. But, I mean, it's cool. It's science fiction at its finest. I would say the first one is a good mash of fantasy and sci-fi, and this one took it really heavily into the sci-fi aspect of it, like the technologies and whatnot. Not a bad thing, just really interesting switch. This author has me hooked. I am really excited to read more. And I want to give you some recommends on other books you might also like. So by far, the one that it's reminding me most of is Red Rising by Piers Brown. Maybe not so much the first book, but when you get to Golden Sun and Morning Star, when the conflicts really start to expand and things get really gut-wrenching. I read Iron Gold, but I didn't continue beyond that because I'm waiting for all the releases. But just this initial first trilogy, if you love the momentum building, you love where it ended up, you love the cast system, you like the main characters, you like how it just made you feel like you were careening towards the end. Yeah, Howling Dark did that in book 2. So I think if you liked one series, you would definitely like the other. The Shadow of the Gods, book 1 in the Bloodthorn series by John Gwynne. I was like, what authors out there have that ability to really slow down the pacing and just really ingrain you with the character and make you feel so connected, but at the same time, like, offer this amazing momentum of forward progression, brutality, and take you on this adventure where the world expands and you know there's so much more to learn, but you know you're only given like a tiny fraction of it up front. That was my experience with Bloodthorn. And I think if you don't mind the bleak aspect of Howling Dark and what I've read in that series so far, I think you will really enjoy Shadow of the Gods. It's more of like a indigenous Norse, really cold setting. So totally different context, but similar feels. And I think, I don't know, I think it'll work for you, especially if you didn't mind the slower pacing of Howling Dark. And finally, The Rune Lords by David Farland. Granted, it's been a long time since I've read this series, but the villains, if you were, in this series remind me a lot of the villains in Sun Eater. I mean, totally, like I said, totally different context, but I don't know, just the otherworldliness of the creatures. And there's kind of a similar hierarchical thing. And actually, speaking of hierarchical, if you like hierarchy, you might try Rune Lords. It's like a classic fantasy version where a few at the top benefit from attributes from those at the bottom of the pyramid, if you will. Really cool magic system, really interesting. And like I said, especially book 4, there's like a culmination of events, and one of my all-time favorites. It was one of the first like really good conflict momentum building battle things that I had read up to that point. And so I think if you liked Howling Dark, you might enjoy this series. I've only read up through book 4. That was all that was out when I read it, and then I kind of got behind. But yeah, villains. Although I think the ones in Rune Lords are a little more bestial, whereas the Howling Dark ones are definitely like their own free thinkers. So there's my summation of that. Now, I have been so behind, probably because I had to read a novella first, and that book took me a long time to get through. But I have been just like so stressed at not having videos out on time, and then needing to know what I'm reading next so I can plan it in. Like, it would really be doing me a solid if it would give me another pink one. I really need another pink one. I need an easy win, because I am so overwhelmed right now trying to catch up on a whole bunch of reading and trying to like meet obligations, and I am working to dig myself out, but knowing that I have to add one more to the pile has been stressing me out, and not knowing what it is, because I do not want to draw off camera before I actually finish the book. So yeah, I've been waiting. So please be kind. Help me out. Help me out. Oh. Okay, I forgot to mention, pink are the really good books, the ones I'm excited to read. Yellow are ones that are kind of middle, and green are ones that I'm not looking forward to reading. I probably shouldn't have hauled them. Oh, crap. Okay. A Desolation Called Peace by Markady. Do I pick again? Here's the thing. I read A Memory Called Empire. I read it when I was working for Audiophile magazine doing production quality reviews, and I don't know if it was because I wasn't in the mood for the story, but I had to read it anyway, or like if it really just didn't click with me. It felt like a lot of talky and not a lot of showy. Like, it had a cool concept for a world, but didn't actually deliver on that. And so I wrote like a 2-star review for it on Goodreads and just moved on with my life. But that review has gotten more attention than any other thing I've ever written, ever. Like, so many comments of people either saying, yes, this didn't work for me either, or like, you're crazy, this was amazing, everything that you know about life is crap. And so I thought, okay, maybe I should try this again at some point. But then Broken Binding came out with these beautiful editions. Look at those sprayed edges. Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. And they were kind of, I don't know, low on stock, not very expensive comparatively. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll read that book again one day and see if maybe it was just me. Like, maybe it's just me. They even signed it in gold. And if it is just me, then maybe I'll do an addendum review. Because, like, normally when I write a review and people don't agree, I'm like, whatever, it's subjective. This one, enough people have commented that I thought, you know, maybe it was just the mood I was in. Because when I do pick up things for obligation reads, I tend to give them, like, on average, 1 fewer star than I would have otherwise. So Desolation Called Peace is the one that got selected. I don't remember anything about Memory Called Empire, so I would need to reread this one to continue. So based on the rules established in the first video, this is the one I will need to pick up. Okay, maybe it was just me. Honestly, having just read Howling Dark and being really into the vibes of that, the sci-fi aspect of it and like, I don't know, the cerebral quality of it might work for me better now than it did back when I read it. So I guess we're going to give it another go. And if I don't get it this time, then I've got 2 beautiful books that I no longer can justify owning. So next time you see me for this feature, I will be reporting my progress on A Memory Called Empire. The universe just knew I needed a break, and it gave me a green. I'm running this feature a little differently. I air it on my Patreon first for the quarter in which we are doing the challenge, and then it goes live on the main channel the quarter later. So we do the challenge, and then we're on to the next challenge while everybody on the main channel catches up, if you will. If you'd like to get in on the action in live time with whatever we got going on for the summer, information for my Patreon is in the description. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to catch you next time.